Hey, you guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven, accompanied by Queen Taylor, and today we're probably going to do one of the most important videos that we've ever done on our channel. And it's something that I knew we were eventually going to have to address. This came up on one of our Patreon polls, and it was a winner. The video is how one mass shooting changed the UK gun laws forever. I'm not sure. We just did the Lockerbie video, and in that Lockerbie video, this Dunblane was recommended. So I'm not sure if this is Dunblane at all.
It's my guess, just because it was recommended a lot in the comment section of our Lockerbie video that we check it out. So,
and of course, with us being Americans, we are our cultures and just. I wish I could say that we're not accustomed to mass shootings and school violences, but we unfortunately are. And so I'm really curious about this. Is a story that I don't think I've ever heard in my life. So I think it's very important for not only Americans, but for us to just watch and see how this all transpired and what happened.
And not to say accustomed to in the sense that it happens and people are like accepting of it or like, oh, just another school shooting. No, it's every single one is tragic. Every single one affects us. We've had comments and videos before that have nothing to do with shootings or anything where people say, you know, you're in America. Why are you upset about this car commercial or this car safety ad when you have school shootings every day? You can be upset about both things. They have nothing to do with one another. Every tragedy like this is exactly that. It's a tragedy. So yes, unfortunately they happen far more than they should here.
Yeah.
So we are.
And 100% our laws are to blame for that.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So you guys, let's see how one mass shooting changed UK's laws forever. And what can we learn from that as Americans, and hope that we could do better. So you guys, let's hop on over this video and let's give it a watch.
People are getting shot all around me.
Hundreds of students ran for their lives.
We didn't think this would ever happen.
The shooting at an elementary school in Newtown,
Virginia Tech.
Parkland, Columbine High School.
A total of 15 people.
33 dead.
20 children, 7 adults.
Yeah.
More than 240,000 US students have experienced gun violence at school since Columbine in 1999. But in the UK, it's a different story. Private ownership of all handguns and semi-automatic rifles is banned, a concept unimaginable in America. But how have these two...
Oh, sorry, you guys. It honestly breaks my heart. The school shootings that have occurred in America. They're just kids.
It's a different story. Private ownership of all handguns and semi-automatic rifles is banned, a concept unimaginable in America. But how have these two inextricably linked nations ended up with such vastly different attitudes on guns? And how did this massive change in the UK even happen? To understand, we have to go back to 1996, when the Dunblane Massacre changed everything.
Grief, shock and disbelief in the Scottish town of Dunblane.
A former scout leader with a grudge.
It is a tragedy without precedent.
16 tiny children died right here at Dunblane Primary School.
The massacre, carried out by a man who had licenses for his guns, was enough to change the UK's gun laws forever.
What's truly amazing is that by the end of the next year, it became illegal to own a handgun in the UK.
But how did the UK get to that point so fast? It was mainly due to the activism from those personally affected by the attack.
My daughter Sophie was one of the 16 young children who were shot dead at Dunblane Primary School. She and I were on our own. She was my only child.
Oh.
Dr. Mick North was an academic before the shooting, but after, he found it impossible to return to that life. So he devoted himself to making sure other parents never had to experience his agony by becoming a gun control activist.
Hi.
One of my initial reactions after Dunblane was a feeling that this should never have happened because the guns that the perpetrator used have been too easy to come by.
Dr. North combined forces with other people who were touched by Dunblane, like former Scottish Labour MP Richard Simpson.
Now, he was a doctor at the local hospital at the time, but then after that experience, he changed his entire career, became a Labour MP, and helped to lead the motion to change the gun laws in the UK.
Wow.
What I discovered was that the then Conservative government was in the process of actually seeking to deregulate the process by which guns were regulated in the United Kingdom. And that really made me very annoyed.
These two men were part of a movement fighting to be heard by politicians. Residents of Dunblane and relatives of victims started speaking out and organising public relations campaigns and creating petitions.
Politicians weren't necessarily used to hearing from the victims of shooting incidents.
Everyone who says, I enjoy the sport, I want to hold the gun in my hand and have the live ammunition. What I say is, you have those emotions for enjoying your sport, but feel the emotions of a parent who is never going to see their child again.
There was a massive groundswell, a bit like the climate extinction movement now. It wasn't highly coordinated or paid for.
So we had a petition called the Snowdrop Petition, which was getting the public to sign up for a ban on handguns, eventually gaining over 700,000 signatures.
It's amazing.
Within 2 years, a total ban on handguns had been introduced in this country.
By 1999, over 165,000 guns and over 700 tons of ammo had been surrendered.
Wow.
There was a lot of opposition to it, and it was suggested that it would actually badly affect people who used guns for sport, but it hasn't done so.
What we did was a major achievement, and I'm very satisfied with what we were able to do.
Dunblane happened. The gun laws were overhauled before Columbine even happened, 2 years earlier. It's like the precedent was set. We knew what was starting to happen across the world.
And 2 years later, on April 20th, 1999, 2 teenagers shot and killed 12 fellow students and a teacher at Columbine High School near Denver, Colorado. Just like Dunblane did in the UK, Columbine shocked Americans. It wasn't the first school shooting in the US, but those images captured on live TV set something off that had ripple effects throughout the country. And just like in Dunblane, no one was closer to the situation than the victims' parents.
Yeah.
I'm the father of Daniel Mauser. He was one of the students killed at Columbine High School. He was 15 years old.
Like Mick North before him, Tom devoted his life to fighting for gun control, even taking a year off from work to lobby at the state capitol.
Just 2 weeks before Columbine, at the dinner table, Daniel asked me a question based on a conversation that he had with other members of the debate team. He said, "Dad, did you know there were loopholes in the Brady Bill?" Brady Bill is a national law that requires background checks to purchase a gun. And I just kind of blew it off. He was then killed with a gun that was purchased through a loophole in the Brady Bill. I mean, how could I not act on that? To me, that was very prophetic. And it made me realize that when we have loopholes like that, when we have so much carnage in this country, we have to do something about it. I became very vocal, active.
And Tom did make some very real progress on a state level soon after, helping to introduce a bill to close the same gun show loophole he and Daniel had discussed over dinner. In 2000, the public voted and passed Colorado's answer to the Brady Bill by an overwhelming majority of about 70%.
I felt that I did something to honor Daniel. I did something in response to something he brought up to me.
But this small victory at the state level in Colorado was overshadowed by strong national backlash against gun safety laws. Barely a year after Columbine, then NRA President Charlton Heston gave this famous threat.
From my cold, dead hands.
In America, we are so wrapped up in individualism and rights that we say, well, no, we can't do that because that might possibly affect my rights. And for a lot of people, that's more important than what could possibly happen to them or their neighbors. It's a cultural issue that is very starkly different between us and other nations. I think it's shameful in the U.S. that we have failed to really react in any significant way.
That mentality.
Since Columbine, the narrative in the US around gun rights and gun control has only become more polarizing.
Restricting law-abiding Americans from acquiring guns is obviously unconstitutional.
Is it time to repeal the Second Amendment?
The left has their rigid, radical, anti-gun agenda.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
In the US, barely any federal gun control laws have passed since Columbine. In fact, experts say the most significant change in gun law is when politicians let a Clinton-era assault weapons ban expire in 2004, making assault weapons like AR-15s legal again. Since then, the AR-15 has been used in almost every notable mass shooting in America. And the problem
they got rid of bump
to get
stocks
worse.
too.
The US has more firearms per person than any other country in the world. And it's the only country in the world that has more guns than people. And the US gun homicide rate is 25 times that of other high-income countries, including the UK.
The main problem is not necessarily the Second Amendment, but how that has been interpreted.
In America, there needs to be an understanding of how to tighten the law without grossly infringing on what are perceived of as rights under the Second Amendment.
But it does seem ridiculous to use the words of the Founding Fathers to decide how you control or don't control weapons that are usually used in war zones.
There have been so
100%.
many mass shootings since Columbine that many Americans feel hopeless about reform. The fact remains, however, that 61% of Americans do support stricter gun laws. And there are many potential changes, such as closing the gun show loophole or restricting assault weapons, that would make a huge impact and would not go as far as a total ban on firearms.
It takes a long time sometimes. It's not just changing the laws. You also have to change culture to get people to be willing to change the laws.
Yes.
And perhaps there'll come a time
Powerful statement.
Enough people vote in politicians who will be supportive of the gun control measures that America needs and deserves.
No one has kids so they can buy them bulletproof backpacks. You have kids so that they can hopefully thrive in a better world than you did. We really have to ask ourselves if we're giving them that opportunity.
Right. That's a very eye-opening video. It was very well done. I actually really enjoyed it. It's very informative, and I hope that any Americans that are watching this from our channel kind of really thinks about and takes heed. You know, this was something that happened in the 90s for the UK, and look at how much good it's had on UK. With their, you know, we just looked this up. There was 233 school shootings in 2025 in America. Or in America, there was 200, and that was down by 350 or so the year prior. My biggest issue, I understand that the argument has always been that it's a right, but in the UK, they didn't just outright ban all guns. That's ridiculous. They banned handguns and assault rifles, and they gave people who wanted to own a shotgun and other types of firearms, I believe they use like police certificates or something. It's more controlled.
Yeah.
You know, farmers can have, you know, little rifles to, keep their, crops and their farms intact. And like, so it's not to say that all guns have been banned in the UK is not true. We just don't have common sense. We don't have any like gun control mechanisms in America. And that's a problem, especially with the internet being so volatile as it is. You know, we talk about gun violence. Gun violence is only getting worse since the internet. And now with social media, kids are bullies. Kids are using social media and the internet. And not only is our societal culture just so fucking toxic that it's making these kids crazy. It's making people crazy. Our political climate, things are, so you're just like giving these disenfranchised people, death has become so desensitized in America that like no one cares anymore. And that's a tragedy. And I feel as though if we were able to implement
also
some
please don't take that literal, like some comments are taken literal. He doesn't mean literally nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's desensitized because it happens far more than it should, but
Yeah.
it's still,
I care.
like,
We
it
care.
still really affects most everyone.
Yeah. I mean, these tragedies happen and it's heartbreaking. And I think there's far more people than you would expect in America that want stricter gun laws.
Yeah.
I mean, common sense, like get rid of why do you need a handgun?
Yeah.
Why do you need an assault rifle? Like these are no brainers. And we know that, but there are bigger entities like the NRA, like that dude over my cold. Well, then die, dude. Then get out of here. Because you're not living the same world that we're living in right now.
I think to say that you would ban all guns it's asinine concept. It's very unrealistic, but there needs to be a line, and they need to be very strict process on how you can have a gun and everything that you have to, like, you should have to jump through hoops to be able
Right.
to own one. And there just needs to be like a big list of rules. And look, like, we're not anti-gun, we're in the sense of, like, ban every single gun, because, like, the bad guys are always going to get them, and you want to have people that can defend themselves, because unfortunately in this country there are a lot of instances where there are shooters and things like that, and lives have been saved from somebody who had, like, a carry and conceal weapon, and they took out the gunman and saved, dozens of other lives. So it's like there are instances where it's good for some people to have them, but there are so many instances where it's awful and where guns are falling into the wrong hands. People are mentally unstable and able to just go get a gun, even though they've been released from, a mental health institute for the 6th time in the past 3 years for, aggression and things like that. It's like that person should have never been allowed to own a gun, ever. There needs to, like, those are the instances where things need to change drastically and so quickly, because, like he said, 233 school shootings just in 1 year. That's like,
It's mind blowing.
it's 233 more than there needs to be, right? Like, realistically, there should be 0, but far, far, far more.
And
than there should be.
What's really sad is those are 233 that I don't even know the names of the schools. I have no idea. So that's terrible. Like, what's the number before it becomes national news?
Yeah.
Right? Is it 14 kids dead? Like, what's the
Yeah, so many
what's
of
the
those we
magical
never heard
number?
about, because it was, oh, no kids were killed, or 1 kid was injured and nobody
Yeah.
died, or just 2 kids were killed, versus 12 or 13 or 14. There's so many of those that we never heard about until it hits a certain number, but every single one of those is a tragedy, whether somebody died or not, because there should never be shootings like that, and especially in a school.
And the number should be 0, you
Yeah.
guys. The number should be 0. And the fact that it isn't is a problem.
And I think it's spectacular that it took one school shooting for them
In
to
the UK to just
band
nip it
together
in the
and be
bud.
like, this is not what our future is going to be. I'm not going to send my child to school with this fear, so we're going to do something to get this taken care of. And I think that's honestly incredible.
And we're going to be homeschooling our children because F that. We're
Mhm.
not doing that.
And that's, honest to God, a massive, massive, if not the biggest reason why we're
Yeah,
homeschooling.
it's 100% the biggest reason. And that shouldn't be the case. And I feel as though the culture will change with parents from the millennial generations
Mhm.
onwards,
Yep.
being so greatly affected by this.
Yeah.
Our politicians and our current, status quo of gun rights and gun laws are being held up there by a different generation who did not have to live the way that we live today. And I'm hoping that, as the natural course of time, as these people cycle in and the culture starts changing, that we will have some substantive, changes happen. And I'm hoping in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I'm hoping in my lifetime for my kids' future, for all that. And I am a super advocate of, because no one needs, like, I pride myself that I don't own a gun and I don't want to, because I don't want to have my children to have access to it. And I don't want that to be the first response, because there's so many times where people shoot other people because, again, they're desensitized to this whole death thing,
Yeah.
where that's their first option. It's, I'm just going to grab my gun and take a life. Like, that's not the great, like, it blows my mind.
Like it's nothing.
Like it's nothing.
Like it's just smacking somebody. It's not. Yeah.
And we live in a culture where there are more guns than civilians. Like, we need to be wrapping that up. And it's just, I'm sorry, I don't mean to ramble. It's just, this is such a heated topic for me.
I also want to say though, I'm sure, you know, like media and things like this, like we don't know what you guys are seeing, right? Because we're Americans. We're living this like in real time daily. So we are obviously affected by this.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said, you know, we don't agree with the gun laws and things need to change. They've needed to change for years and years and years. And
years, yeah.
We're hoping that we can be part of that where it does. But I also know, you know, based off some comments we get and things like that, it feels like people think that most Americans are gun-toting gun lovers. And, you know, like they showed images in here of people with their guns and We the People tattoos and, you know, hats and shirts that are like, try and take my guns. Like they said, at least 60-something% of people want stricter gun laws. So
Yeah.
I don't want you guys, and I hope that this clears it up if you question it. Most people are out there with guns and
Yeah.
are like just trigger happy and are wearing these
Redneck
shirts that
wear-
are like,
yeah.
you know, try and take my gun. Most people are not like that. I think the people that are that way are very strongly opinionated on it, and they are very like, they just feel a certain type of way. So those are the types of people that are gonna buy the shirts and hats that say that, and they feel strong, but it is not the majority of Americans. And I think that there's a little bit of a misconception that way. And I don't know if it's media. I don't know if it is because we have such a high number of shootings and things like that, but it's truly not the majority.
Yeah, it's not the majority. I think most people are just normal people.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. And it's just unfortunate. And, you know, the people, I feel as though the NRA and these companies are all profiting heavily off of guns.
Yeah.
And like, that's the real reason why no laws have been created. I think politicians are corrupt as all hell and are lining their pockets. And that's
It's
why
corruption and greed, 100%.
you know, that's why no bill has come forth, because no one's willing to write the bill because they're lining pockets. It is what it is, you guys.
This was a very heavy topic.
It is.
And we appreciate you guys bringing this to our attention, and then also just being here with us as we, you know, go through this video and learn about this. And it's very informative. It's very eye-opening in a lot of different ways. And I think this was a very heartbreaking, but also very good video to watch. So,
because we've seen what a country, how two different countries responded to mass shootings. You had Columbine, nothing happened. You had Dunblane, the entire UK got rid of, I wouldn't say
within
got rid
2
of.
years.
Within 2 years, they banned handguns, which are concealable, which, you know, you can easily empty a mag and, you know, they don't need to be around. And that's our time, you guys. It's a remarkable how compassion and the response was so much different. And I almost felt that way about Columbine. I almost felt like we were going to unite around something, and this was going to be. Guys, that's our time. We're done. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.